Want to say thank you for EA for giving me early access to this Volume 2 update. Shout out to these man there. Right, let's get into this then. Volume 2 is very much baby steps. There's some good, there's some bad, and there's some ugly.
Oh my golly, guys, I need you to pinky promise that you can keep a secret.
And in this video, I'm going to give you the quick rundown on everything that you need to know about Volume 2. In the marketing material, they said there's 3 new cars. There isn't 3 new cars. There is 1 new car, and that is the Maybach S-Class. There is then 2 custom variants of existing cars in the game. One of those is the Balmain Amira. I actually saw this at the launch party.
Watch out, little bitch.
And the second car is the Bozozoku Z, which is also already in the game. The AI uses this in single player. So again, I'm not going to really call this a new car as such. Plus the fact it's locked behind EA Play definitely itches me the wrong way. But here we are.
Maybach music.
So the Maybach has a fair bit of customization. I think it has about 3 parts across the front bumpers, the rear bumpers, etc., etc. Most of the parts are pretty decent, actually. There's not a ton of OTT parts, which I think is good. I think a lot of the cars in this game, they just look way too out there. I think there needs to be some stuff which is a bit more close to home, a bit more OEM plus. I've got my inner Snoop Dogg build going on here with that one. You see that one there? In terms of how this thing performs in game, this shit is heavy. Obviously, I can't do Gary in Unbound due to how the single player works, but I don't think many people are going to be going into multiplayer lobbies with the Maybach. I think it'll be mainly a car you unlock and then probably don't touch for a little bit. Speaking of which, you need to get 30 stars on the Hot Lap events to be able to purchase this car. So these are literally what it says on the tin. They're like Hot Lap Time Attack events, and they are based around the world. They're pretty self-explanatory, like you guys are seeing gameplay of it right now. These were pretty easy from what I experienced. I did these maybe on second try most times, and it is only for the fastest cars in the game, really. You can do them in lower class cars, but it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. You don't go ghost, nor do other players go ghost. So someone potentially could grief you as you're hot lapping around these. The cops in multiplayer can also get involved. So if you're, online to beat one of your times and a cop stands right there in your line of sight, tough luck. And traffic also plays a part. I think these would have been better as standalone races. I would think these would have been better if you went ghost. So things like traffic, cops, and other players aren't an issue.
On Bloods, that's what I want. That's it.
And it did not take me long at all to unlock the Maybach. I think I did it within an hour. And with the higher payouts in PvP, which is something they've changed, I honestly don't think you'll be spending much time with this. Maybe you'll do all of them in an hour and probably won't touch them, which actually leads us up to the new PvP events. So they've refreshed a bunch of events in PvP. There is now Rumble PvP events, as well as Endurance PvP events, and a few new playlists in between. So Endurance events are pretty self-explanatory, but Rumble events are essentially repurposed takeover events. Most of these are a mix of asphalt and dirt, mainly dirt. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not particularly a fan of these events. They get a bit hectic, you end up just getting rammed off the road, and for me, it's just not the type of gameplay that I enjoy. Plus, I'm not really the biggest fan of dirt racing in Need for Speed anyway. I much prefer asphalt racing in Need for Speed games, so that's just my personal preference. There's been a lot of actually nice quality of life improvements, so you can see how many people are in your lobby and what they're doing. When you're in PvP, if no one accepts an invite, or you'll go in by yourself. You can change cars from each event in PvP, and as I mentioned earlier, payouts are much higher, which I think is a good thing. And PvP should be a better experience in theory, because they also looked at balancing, so cars can now only be downgraded 1 class of car. This is a good thing, so your Pista can't go down to B class anymore, I don't believe. And they did say that this is something that they're going to be looking at in the future and making adjustments accordingly. Finally, this leads us up to cops in multiplayer, which is a dub. but it's also an L. Cops in multiplayer is almost exactly the same as it was in Need for Speed Heat. I wouldn't say there's particularly any incentives outside some of the daily challenges and some stickers and stuff to actually do anything against the cops. They're pretty easy to lose. There's not really a risk or reward. You know, in Heat, you had that big risk of, you know, banking all your points when you go back to the safe house, but there's not really anything like that in this game. They kind of just are there in the city. I think there is a lot of missed potential in here. This kind of seems like they're a little bit slapdash in there, which is a shame, and for now it's exclusive to the open world, not available in races. This update, there's a lot of baby steps. I think in reality this is kind of what we were all expecting on launch anyway, and it seems like the game is almost getting to that stage of, you know, what we expected back in December when the game launched. Some things did leave a sour taste in my mouth, and I need to talk about them, and I hope the people at Criterion listen to what I have to say here, because I'm sure a lot of other people will agree with me. Key issues in this game still need to be solved. I made a whole video about this, I'll link it up top. PvP matchmaking is non-existent. Considering the whole multiplayer is based around this, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. Certain kits post-patch have actually got worse. So the RX-8, for example, used to get really, really low with this front fender. Post-patch now, they have just made it higher. Launching into PvP games by yourself, that is a good and a bad thing. I think that's a double-edged sword. Okay, so you can go into events reliably now. That is a positive. But at the same time, is this going to make the people not joining races situation any better? I don't think so. I think it's going to make it a lot worse, because people now will just be joining events by themselves. And that is not why people play multiplayer. People play multiplayer to play with other people. So some really, really confusing design decisions here that I'm not really understanding. Now, in fairness, there was a developer Q&A where they did say that they're only getting started, and this is only the start of basically Unbound's live service content. I don't think anyone really had huge expectations for this update, but at this point now, they just actually need to not only have the ideas, but execute them in a way which is polished and is feature rich, and not in the way that they have at the moment. I'm very understanding that this is a new studio, etc, etc. I get there's certain bits, you know, like the EA play cars, which are probably from a higher up level. And if they're going to do that, which I'm not really a fan of in the first place to begin with, they need to make sure that the content they do include is polished and well put together. And as you can see from my hot laps explanation earlier and how the cops have been done in multiplayer, I just think they are leaving so much on the table. So I think Volume 2 is a decent update, and I really, really hope that whatever happens, this next update doesn't take 3 months to drop. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I didn't get too serious on you, but you know, it's one of those things, like, you just gotta say how it is. And I hope you guys at Criterion watch this and take this on board. And it's not me being overly negative, it's just a bit of constructive criticism and how I feel, you know, just as a Need for Speed content creator, I guess. Anyway, shout out to the man down this side. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.